Now, in the last few days, I have watched in amazement and horror as our political space quickly degenerated into a despicable cesspit as so-called leaders trade below-the-belt jabs. I've heard politicians from all sides of all the divides describe each other using private body parts and generally pollute the air with untold amounts of stinking effluent gushing out of both sides of their mouths. Please don't get me wrong. I know it has been a while since a majority of our politicians spoke sense. But what we've seen this last couple of days is truly beyond belief. But tonight I'm choosing to pick on the women politicians. First, for the sake of my own daughters, but secondly, because of our history. I'll explain why. You see, I have keenly studied the evolution of Kenyan politics for a while. And in the last 20 years or so, I've covered it in this job. I've read about and in many instances witnessed firsthand the gallant struggle of the Kenyan women who dared challenge the status quo at great personal peril and sacrifice. I have in mind the inimitable Grace Onyango, who in 1965 defied the odds to become the first female mayor in independent Kenya, the first female MP in 1969, and shortly after, as the first woman to sit on the Speaker's chair, albeit in a temporary capacity. I'm also thinking about the other post-independence greats, such as Phoebe Ageyo, Dr. Julia Ojambo, and the late Grace Ogot. Now, who can forget Martha Karua, who blazed the trail with her pro bono legal representation of Second Liberation heroes and later her outstanding role in the judiciary and in Parliament? And what about Professor Wangari Maathai, who famously reminded a male colleague that the most relevant part of her body in Parliament was from the neck upwards, and went ahead to execute her parliamentary business with dignity and grace? I could name a few more. But what these great daughters of Kenya did was to make an unapologetic case for women's involvement in politics. And when they got the chance, they proved all their critics wrong and made their mark. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the legacy that I'm afraid to say is now under great peril when women politicians allow themselves to be reduced to crude weapons against their fellow women at the behest of male puppeteers who couldn't care less if we had no women at all in Parliament. I know I will be told that men also cheer other men. I accept that. I will also be told that male politicians also fight other male politicians. I couldn't agree more. But consider this. Why have we been talking about the two-thirds gender issue for this long? Is it not simply because we don't have enough women in Parliament? Why did we create special seats for women in 2010? Because we didn't have enough women in Parliament. Why didn't we have enough women in Parliament? Because the political playing field was not and is still not level. This simply means that women are starting off from a point of disadvantage. And if that be the case, why would they allow themselves to be so manipulated as to turn against one another with unprintable insults and shameless fits of insanity? Why would they desecrate such a great legacy of the towering women on whose shoulders they now stand? I need not make this case any further. So I will talk about my daughters and have only one question. Can anyone in this country tonight point me to one female parliamentarian, just one, to whom I should send my daughter for some inspiration and career advice? Just one. I beg. That's my answer.